Hey, FTUers, welcome back to the show. We are here in Dallas, Texas at the first larger FTU we've had since before the pandemic. We had an event in Washington, D.C. In March, the first week of March, the March 7th and 8th of 2020. And I'm here, actually, it's funny, I flew United home on Monday after that happened, and 2 days later the world shut down. And it happens I have the most frequent United flyer, or any flyer in the whole world, Tom Stuker, with me here today. Always good to see you, Tom.
Tommy, it's great to be here, and as always, any of your events, whether it's one of your mega dues or your FTU events like the one you have down here in Dallas, here I am, the world's most frequent flyer, but I love coming to your events because there's just so much to learn and so many things that it just amazes me with all the experts you have that help people like me, or anybody for that matter, travel easier, more convenient, more cost effective. I don't want to say game the system, but how to maximize everything from credit cards to mileage points, and the apps that are out there blow me away.
Right. Yeah, that's it's getting more difficult out there because a lot of people have discovered this hobby for sure, and it's always good to get help from all of these guys that are all those kids that follow this more than definitely than I do from a day-to-day perspective. There's a lot to learn. So yeah, I remember that flight. That was on that Monday when everything got shut down on Wednesday. It's a one wide body a day at that point. It was a 777 going from Dulles to San Francisco. And that upgrade on Mondays is really tough to get in the morning because a lot of business people take that flight. That day, that plane was almost empty. So my upgrade and also Melinda's upgrade clear. Where were you during the pandemic? What did you do?
Pandemic, gosh, I need to get back to the pandemic days only as much as I still flew 300 to 400,000 miles a year during the pandemic. I just went back and forth to Hawaii all the time,
Yeah. Well, was it? There were some restrictions in Hawaii.
No, I never stayed there.
You just flew back and forth.
I just flew back and forth. I would fly there. I would walk my 10,000 steps and then get back on the plane. During the pandemic, man, I lost 65 pounds. That was the best health I ever had during the pandemic because all I did is walk. I walked 17, 18 miles a day. It was a full-time job. I started doing what I call walk and talk. People I haven't talked to in years, I'd just be on the phone with my AirPods and just walk miles, about 2.5 hours at a clip, 3 times a day.
Wow. Yeah, no, it was and a lot of upgrades. I remember I was some unfortunate circumstances in the winter of 2020. My mom passed away, so I had to go back to Norway, and I was on a KLM 787-9 with 50 people on the whole plane.
Oh wow!
So I don't know if you've ever been on KLM on that plane. They have 2 sections. They got the first rows of business class, and then the second row. And in the second row, second section, it was just me in the whole plane.
Oh wow!
So that was a lot of also Lufthansa. I was on a 350, and it was even less people than 50 on that plane. But the reason why they went back and forth is because they had fresh tulips going to California. So the whole lower deck was filled with tulips going over, and other goods exported from the U.S. going back. So that's why they kept flying daily. But anyways, but now we're back and travel. I don't even think I get on a plane and it's not packed to the brim.
It's amazing. I mean, back in the day, travel was a lot more fun because, well, when all I flew was coach because I was starting my company, and even coach was so much more fun than it is now because there was a lot of empty seats. I remember like flights going back and forth from Chicago to New York. Seems like they had one every single hour.
Yeah, they did.
But they're only half full, so some genius ended up saying, hey, why don't we cut well, instead of flying 12 times a day, let's go 6 times a day. Instead of being half full, we could have them overflowing. And,
Right.
And I'll go, wow, what genius idea that was.
Yeah, no kidding. And all of a sudden, they also started thinking maybe the same genius. Maybe we don't need 33 inches of legroom in coach. Maybe 29 is better.
You know what? And I don't know how far this is going to go. Like, not that I need to eat because I need to eat less because me and food get along really well. But on the flights, international business class flights, when they can't have more than $5 in a dinner, and I go back to the days where they had Dom Perignon, they had what was it, caviar and Stoli before dinner. The desserts were. Thank God they still have the ice cream.
Yeah, well, barely. Oh, you have to be a pretty long flight for that now.
Exactly, and it's getting to the point where just how cheap can they get? But you know what? They always talk about. You hear all these stories about this flight attendant or that crew, or I'll never fly these people again. I find there's more bad passengers, a hell of a lot more bad passengers than there is crew.
Yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine, and it's fascinating sitting on the plane watching people board and see how the human brain works. And obviously, a lot of people are infrequent flyers, right? And how all of a sudden the weather becomes, it's like from that Seinfeld episode, where Kramer is complaining about the peaches, and he says, I don't make the peaches. I don't make the peaches. God makes the peaches. You got a problem with the peaches? Take it up with him.
How many times I've seen it at an airport with a weather delay,
Right.
and they'll go, I'll never fly United, or I'll never fly this airline again.
Wow,
And
they're going to run out of airlines pretty quick.
I think people have so little patience today, and it's all about me, and the behavior on planes from passengers. Look at the cases. Almost every week you get something on the news about a passenger going crazy on a plane.
Yeah, well, I landed here on Friday from Sacramento on American. We were, 45 minutes late, which isn't really that much in the grand scheme of things. A lot of people had connections, and we were, as you know, in Dallas, taxiing can take a while. And we were on the taxiway, and behind me there was like 20 people getting up, like the plane was still moving. They thought and we weren't even close to the gate. We were like 10 minutes away. The flight attendants had big problems the flight attendant had big problems getting people to sit down. And she was on the horn talking, and we got close to the gate. But we had that little extra jaunt we have to do.
Oh, didn't you?
And they went up again, and I turned around and I said, seriously, people, sit the fuck down. It's like, oh, I got to bleep that out. I don't know if YouTube will take that, but we'll see.
No, but you're right. It's like everything. The amount of people that have to board early because of, and then I had this woman that
My cousin had cancer.
that they have to board first because they're afraid they're not going to have their bag over their thing, and people moving each other's bags.
Right.
The stuff that goes on airplanes. Over the years, I was telling some stories yesterday at a table when we were sitting down and about people taking off their shoes, and the smell is just unbelievable. And I remember there was a guy sitting in row 2. I always sit in row 1. I'm a 1B guy, just like you.
Just like me, yeah.
But so I put my seat back, and the smell was so bad. And I look around, this guy's got his shoes and socks off, and I said, don't take this the wrong way, but man, your feet smell like shit,
You ever heard of a shower?
Yeah, and he goes, really? I said, those dogs are barking, buddy. I said, here's the thing, that most of us can't smell our own shit. So I know that if it was reversed, you'd do the same for me right now. So yeah, we got to stick together. But
So you had them land in Kansas and threw them off the plane?
No, the guy was a very nice guy, and he said, really that bad? I go, yeah, they put him back on. But people clipping their fingernails. You got to wear a hard hat sometimes with those things flying around, or people putting their nail polish. And I mean, just,
I think that sitting in 1B and seeing people on longer flights without socks on go into the bathroom, I think that's the number one disgusting thing that happens.
oh my God. Well, here's the thing. On international flights, if I had 10 cents for every time I go to the bathroom and someone didn't flush, I'm going, geez. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's your first time on a plane, but it can't be the first time in a bathroom.
Right, no kidding.
I mean, you know, the big blue thing with the arrow that points down to the flush, that's about the size of a toaster, you know, you might just, and the amount of stuff that people steal off planes.
Right.
I can't believe the stuff people steal.
Right.
I mean, I go to the bathroom in a business class, you know, area where they have the dispenser of
L'Occitane or whatever, fancy brand.
People steal that, and then it's like $3 a bottle or something like that. And I'm thinking, and the amount of people that steal the pillows and the blankets. I mean, if they could rip the screen off the TV, they would have put that in their suitcase.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no, that's why they, you notice on not United but on American they have Bang Olufsen headsets. And so they hand them out when in the beginning of the flight, it's there, and then they come and they collect them for you. And there's always problems with either one or two people on it. It's like, where's your headsets, right?
Oh, I never got one.
No, it's an interesting gig because they come and they also come and get the headsets very early on American, if depending on the crew. So you're in the middle of a movie, you got 45 minutes to landing, and then all of a sudden they take your headset. So yeah, those are also things that. Here's the thing though, they've made it so the plugs that are on those headsets, they can only be used on the plane. So.
And still people will take them.
Yeah,
and still people take them.
Literally, the only way it belongs is on a different American Airlines flight. So yeah, no, it's interesting. So, being the most frequent flyer in the world, and you've flown how many times to Australia?
Over 400.
Over 400 times.
So that's 8 million miles right there.
Right, and that's 15 hours from LA.
Yeah.
You would go either to San Francisco or mostly to LA back in the days, but now it's San Francisco for the last 10 years.
Yeah, you know what? All my early trips, actually, most of the flights were going out of LA.
747s back.
Yeah, But back then they had the first class lounge before they had the.
I remember that up on the second floor there. Yeah,
yeah, that's what the Polaris Lounge is now.
Yeah.
But they had a great first class lounge, and I got to meet so many really interesting people.
Right.
And I knew everybody in LA, the global service people. So that was my favorite airport to go to get to go, go west, whether it's Australia or Asia or something. But San Francisco, they have a really great Polaris lounge, and they have a good team there. So.
And it's been expanded now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the largest of all the Polaris lounges. It's huge, and really good facilities there. So I go through, my preference is to try to go through San Francisco. And actually, the flights from Newark to San Francisco have more 777s and more Dreamliners.
Yeah, they do.
So it's a lot more of a comfortable transcon flight. So.
It sure is, yeah. And what other destinations were your favorites that you visited?
I've been to Hawaii over 200 times. Right. I've been to Asia over 100 times, Europe over 100 times.
So that was United 1.
What's that?
United Flight 1 out of Chicago.
Oh my God!
And it
back
wasn't
in the day.
continuing.
There was one.
Right.
There was, and I took that round the world trip.
Right.
And I've done it 3 times. Once with my son, once with a buddy of mine, and then once with my father-in-law.
Right.
And so it started. Did it start in Chicago? Yeah.
Started in Chicago.
Went to London. Chicago to London, and then London to Delhi.
Right.
Delhi to Hong Kong.
Right.
And then Hong Kong to San Francisco.
Right. So when I was on my honeymoon, actually, went on that flight, and they went from Chicago to the Lulu, and going back, actually didn't do. We were in Maui. Did it go to Maui?
Well, it went route one. I mean.
This was in 2007.
The plane number 1.
Right.
Flight 1.
Right.
Went, I think, east, and then flight 2 went west. One went,
Don't remember. I thought I could have sworn back then that we went to, definitely. You're right. We definitely went west, and I don't remember. We were in Maui for our honeymoon.
okay,
Yeah.
all
So, but we also, I think we stopped in Kona on the way back. I think it flew just a couple minutes over to Kona.
Wow.
And then we went back to.
they could have changed the routing, but
Yeah,
they
it
had
was-
it, they had it, there was,
that wasn't a United one. I just remember going to Hawaii that it was, and those were the 777s with the recliners up front. So they had quite a bit of. In the first section, it wasn't like the business class. It was like a little bit more recliner. It was like they had those.
well, they had a 3-class cabin back then.
They had domestic ones.
Okay.
Before the slave ship
Yeah.
242.
I call those 3-quarter seats.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't go down all the way, but the footrest came up a little bit, and it did recline a little more.
Yeah, so this wasn't that. They had some domestic ones, the shorter range, the 777-200, not 200 ER.
Yeah.
They only had, you could fly to Hawaii, but that was kind of the maximum limit. And it had economy plus and economy, but the first section it wasn't even the business class seat. It was just a regular first class seat with 222.
Yeah.
You can dig up some pictures from back then. That was before iPhone, so
Yeah.
so it was but the history of what happened after that, and yeah, so 3/4 ways. I would sit upstairs on the 747. That was always a good place. That was business class.
I flew it.
Because you were probably in first class, which was in the nose.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
business class was upstairs and also behind there. And on
Well, I always flew, well, I was lucky enough to fly the first class where there was, you'd have like 3 flight attendants for 18 customers.
Right.
I mean, that's when and then they started downsizing everything, starting
right.
with the cruise and all that stuff. But, man, those were the days. I loved that 47. I loved when they're serving the great champagne and.
Well, you had your name on one of them, right?
Yep, they put my name on the first 777, and then on the last 47,
Right.
that had the United with the new livery on
Yeah,
it. And actually, they did that as a kind of a gift at my 10 million mile party. The last present they gave me is they wheeled the 47 up.
I was there. I remember that.
The 47 up.
I have a
right
video.
up.
I actually have a video of that when they rolled the plane up with your
Oh,
name
wow,
on it. I do.
okay,
I filmed it on my phone.
But
yeah.
that was pretty nice. And then Smizik basically did a presentation down on the field, you know.
Right.
And
Well, we weren't allowed there. It was just a handful of people that could go
yeah,
inside.
but it was the party.
The party was in.
My 10 million mile party. It was. And the funny thing about that is, and I don't think barely anybody knew what happened, but I started my 10 million mile flight in Australia, stopped in L.A., and then had a connection. They threw a little party in Melbourne. They threw a little party in L.A. at the gate, and then they threw the big one. They spent $250,000 on that party in Chicago.
At the Red Carpet Club out on the Sea
old
Gates.
Red Carpet Club. They closed it down to do the party. So they, but we arrived at Chicago from L.A. About an hour and a half late because the plane broke down.
Oops.
Yeah, my 10 million mile flight, the plane broke down, and they actually had to take a Continental plane and fly that to Chicago. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember that very well. I had to drive to the airport, so I had a little bit of traffic probably on the 90, but that was it for me.
You know what? The gifts. It's funny. People said, "Well, did they give you a car?" I go, "It's an airline. Why would they give you a car?" But the gifts they gave me were priceless. Maybe not to another person, but
I like the
priceless.
leather jacket they gave you. That was
Well,
pretty.
they gave me the leather jacket at $20 million.
Right.
That was a really nice. It was quite a smaller party, not quite off anywhere near like the 10 million, but the 10 million had. They did a book. They put a book together that literally listed every single flight I've taken from the first flight. I mean, since I joined Mileage Plus. I mean,
Wow.
so it had every single flight, and then on on a page where it says, okay, here's his 1 million mile flight, here's his 2 million flight. So it would be broken down. Every single flight from my first mileage plus flight to my 10 million flight is all detailed. They had
That's
pictures
crazy.
and
Well,
quote-
back in the day, you got that statement in the mail every month, like from
yeah,
the
yeah,
banks.
they did. And so like I'm applying to the world record people, the Guinness people. And it's turned into a little kind of a complication there, but they want all kinds of money now. I mean, used to be you could apply for the record for $5, and now oh yeah, for 2,500 plus expenses, we'll have a guy witness it for you. And I'm just I heard somebody told me that the Guinness Book of World Records was sold to a car dealer in Canada. I'm going to have to check this out. I mean, but that
Crazy.
and so it's like they bring in an F&I office and they bump you on all the extras.
Right.
So the guy that used to be the world's record holder was a good friend of mine, and we were on the Today Show together. And
What's his record?
his record is his updated record's like 17 million or something like
Right.
that. When we were on the Today Show, this is back in about 2010.
Right.
One of Matt Lauer's last years or something like that.
Right.
But he was he had like 15 and a half, I had 14 or something like that. He was a million and a half ahead of me, but over
How
the
old is
years, he's he'll be 83 this year. He's 20.
Oh, so you got like you got him for
But
sure.
you know what? I even told him, I said, Fred, the world record means nothing to me. It means a lot more to you than it does to me. I said, as long as I'm alive, you can have this world record thing. And that's why he says, why didn't you apply for the world record? I said, it's not that important. I mean, that and 10 cents gets you a dime.
Right.
There's no Pulitzer Prize for flying. But he's a really nice gentleman. We were good friends, but now he trolls me on the internet because he says I'm a fraud because those are earned miles, not flown miles. And
What?
yeah, he's bitter.
So here's the thing, though. That's the distinction. United doesn't let you, and I got a couple million miles on United, so I'm nobody. But still, they only do butt and seat miles. That's the only thing that you get for qualifying for status. Contrary to American, you hear with somebody. That's an American flyer. They used to count.
Oh, everything.
Absolutely everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
You sign up for Netflix and you got 20,000 points miles for that. That counts towards.
You literally could become a 10 million mile flyer on American without ever getting in a plane.
Yeah, right. I remember that. My wife did the dollar coin situation and got platinum for life from that. So that was just buying a few dollar coins, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
So it was the thing with American is you hear all of these guys throwing around. I got 15 million miles on American. It's like, oh, but you run a business where you put you put 13 on those million miles on a credit card.
Yeah.
Of course, that has changed in modern times. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But for a very long time, it's still easier now than it was before. But back then, it was super easy. Like and back then there was a lot of if you changed power provider, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever or cell phone provider, you would get.
I knew a guy. One of my clients was earning 3 million miles a year on his credit cards.
Right.
American Airlines.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's somebody. When somebody says to me that they got 30 million, well, Stuker's got 24 million on United. I got 30 million on American. It's like, right.
Yeah. No, you don't.
I think but they have a system in place. They literally just did American literally just incorporated their lifetime mileage program to go to executive platinum. So which is their 1K equivalent to 1K on United. And so they did a lot of mathing, and there's nobody that comes even close to where you are in real life flying, for sure.
Like I said, when I started flying, and my first commercial flight was, I think it was a junior in high school, down to San Antonio out of Chicago. And it's actually a scary flight. Almost all my scary flights were within my first 50 flights. I had a terrible, terrible fear of flying at the beginning. It took me years to get over the fear of flying.
That's crazy.
I mean, I was terrified. And in fact, I would prepare to fly, right? And sometimes I got too prepared, you know. I mean, I remember one time in L.A. I was on L.A. to San Diego, and it's about a half hour up in the air and down, basically. But so I'm terrified of flying, and so I had a couple Bacardis at the bar, and it was a mechanical engine problem, which really was terrifying me. And they said, well, we're delayed because we're still working on the engine. And I go, wait a minute, when it's fixed, we're the ones that are trying it out, you know? So, and so I got so petrified, I went from Bacardi to 151. So by the time I got on the flight, I was plastered, all right? And I never sit by the window. I never sit by the wing. I have no idea, but apparently, and it's, to tell you how long ago this was, I had my Sony Walkman on, the cassette player.
All right.
I remember listening to Jeffrey Osborne, and all of a sudden, the tape shut off, which usually gets you to wake up because your brain's going, something's wrong here. Like you fall asleep with the TV, someone turns the TV off and you wake up. But so I woke up and I'm looking out the window of the plane and I'm still half in a bag, right? So I'm looking out the window and all I see is the wing going, you know, back and forth like this as we're quickly approaching the ground.
Right.
I didn't have time to really process it properly. So I jumped up right while we were landing, screaming, holy shit, we're all gonna die, you know? and everybody's panicking on the plane, and the flight attendant goes, sit down, there's nothing wrong, talking about being the most embarrassed person on the planet. I wouldn't get off the plane because I said, there are people out there who's going to be making fun of me. And they go, no, we have to go back to L.A. You have to get off the flight, you know? Mm-hmm. So I get off the flight, sure enough, there's about 10 people going, that's a guy right there, you know?
No, that's funny.
A little embarrassing.
Yeah, I had it also was a United flight. I used to work for a telecommunications company in Asia, and I would fly from Chicago to Hong Kong and from Hong Kong to Singapore. And that was a 747 route for as long as I remember. I always sat upstairs, and that was the slave ship configuration, which is where four guys are sitting in a row, but upstairs there's only two on each side. And I went to sleep, and there was a guy, very sharp-looking guy in a suit that was there. And I was all the way towards the back. You know, it was a 747-400, so it's not really as big as the newer Dash 8s that Lufthansa has. So it's pretty compact up there, you know that. Well, usually you probably not. You're in first, but this was business. So I woke, and I fell asleep as I usually do, and I had the meal, I ate, I went to sleep, a couple of drinks, and I woke up, but there's a little bit of commotion, and I opened my eyes, and the first thing I see is that suit guy in a wife beater and his underpants, hanging from the overhead bin like a monkey.
Oh
and I
my
was
God.
like, I had to rub my ass going, what the hell is going on in here? He had taken a sleeping pill, and he wasn't used to doing that, and he's had to throw back a couple of whiskeys, or a few whiskeys after that, so he mixed the sleeping pill, so he went insane. So they had to get him down in the seat, and they finally got to calm him down. It was like, it's the most bizarre moment I've ever noticed on an
Tom,
airplane.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Been there. I haven't hung from the rafters, but I did have a sleeping pill moment.
Right.
After a couple cocktails, and according to
That wasn't you though, because I
no, that wasn't because I never wear a suit. But no, I was out on the way to Australia, and that kind of what happened is I got up in the middle of the night to as the story's being told to me because I wasn't awake, but I got up to use the bathroom, but I didn't go to the bathroom. I literally. The big giant cabinet, the overhead bin, I opened it like it was the bathroom door, right?
Right.
And then I walked in front of the guy in row 4 of the 47, right? Going down so the row 4, and these were the 3/4 seats. They weren't the lay flats,
No.
so they were adjusted, like back like this. But I got in front of the guy in 4D, and apparently when I'm kind of maneuvering, I woke him up, and my buddy says, you should have seen the look on his face when you were facing him about ready to go, and he was pushing every button looking for an eject for a seat.
Right.
And my business partner apparently says, Tom, Tom, and all of a sudden I stopped.
Right.
And then went to the bathroom and came back like nothing happened.
Right.
And I thought they were joking to me the next day. And I go, well, thank God. I said, are you okay? He goes, no harm, no foul, you know. But I talked to the flight attendant. I said, I can't be the only person that walks in her sleep on a plane and maybe has an accident or something.
Right.
They go, yeah, especially on international flights, about once a month, someone gets up and pees all over somebody else.
You gotta be kidding.
No, he says it happens about once a month on international flights. Someone gets up because of that situation, because of being medicated and stuff like this.
Right,
they
right.
pee on somebody else. So since that, man, I always make sure I have a second set of clothes
That's good to hear.
on every flight.
All right, it's we just passed the half an hour mark, and we're a little bit over here, but that's cool. It's always so great to talk with you, Tom, and thanks so much for taking the time and being here with us. And hope we can bring you back in very soon.
Well, the last thing I just want to tell is, you know, be mindful and be polite to your fellow passengers.
Right.
I mean, it's only a flight. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
And try to treat your gate agents and your flight attendants with respect.
Right.
When they come and ask for your drink order, take the damn earphones out of your ears and give them some courtesy.
Right.
And use the words please and thank you a little more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, people need to be well mannered. It just makes the day to go by easier for everybody as we navigate through society. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. You're such a true gentleman, Tom.
Thanks. You know, and continued success and good health to you.
You too. We'll see you at the next event.
All right.
Bye.